The Radio Forest Podcast.
Hey, buddy, it's Al Pitrelli from TSO. How are you?
Good. How you been, man? I haven't seen you since last year.
Listen, and how fast did this year go by, or what? But listen, here we are, man. Everything good at home? Family well? Everybody good?
Fantastic. I wanted to say thank you. Last year, ran into you backstage, had my wife and kids with me. You stopped, you looked them in the eye, you pulled out a couple of guitar picks and spent some time with them. I was blown away, man. That just created such a huge memory for them.
Oh, dude, well, why wouldn't I, man? I mean, me and you chat, we're buds, we're there to celebrate the holidays. And, listen, let's do that again this year. But here's the kicker real quick. No more COVID restraints. That means we get to hang, we get to say hello, we do after show, we do meet and greets, we do autograph ones. So are you going to bring your kids back again?
Yeah, of course. I mean, now they we know TSO, we get to go backstage. I'm like, well, hang on now.
Yeah, you do.
It's not a it's not expect this every time. This is above and beyond. But yeah, they're blown away.
Do it every time, man. Traditions are good. I like family.
Kudos on creating a show that can entertain also kids. I mean, there's not a lot of shows that can do that. You look at movies like maybe Shrek kind of toes that line, but a great job in designing that for the entire family.
No, well, listen, thank you, but we got to give all credit to my boss, the guy who invented this whole thing, Paul O'Neill, and I think we've chatted about him in the past. One of the first things Paul ever said to me was, I just want to create great art. If people catch on to it, bonus, but if not, at least we created something really important. And I think it was that honesty and that integrity and that vulnerability that he put in to not only his songs and his arrangements, but his stories and his poetry that people kind of really relate to and they get it. All ages. It's not specific for any particular thing. Like you said, man, it could be like the Christmas version of Star Wars up there. Everybody has a good time doing it.
Yeah, but it's got to feel different for you, right, with the crowds. I mean, you've played in bands before that are pretty much for a certain demographic of men, these rock bands. How does the crowd feel on stage? Is it a different vibe or is a crowd a crowd?
No, a crowd's a crowd. You put 14,000 people into a building that all want to be there and put their fists in the air, it's a crowd. It's a rock show, The fact is, I got somebody's 90-year-old grandfather holding his granddaughter, and every, generation in between. I got people that, came to see a classical concert that got their fists in the air because the pyro's choreographed to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. I got headbangers listening to Mozart. We got R&B, solo vocal stuff. It is dynamically across the board. And I think that's what keeps it interesting to the audience because you're not getting hit over the head with one thing for an hour and a half or 2 hours.
So did you run into anybody when you were prior to a professional musician with my kids running into you and having that rock star moment and then you're, larger than life and take the time? Have you had good instances like that as a fan where somebody, other than Paul O'Neill, of course, we've talked about him, somebody that you're like, that's the way to do it. That's the way to be the guy.
Yeah. Absolutely. Over my life. I mean, Leslie West was one of the first ones from Mountain, running into him someplace randomly and just chatting. We became great friends. I think the most important of all my chance meetings was with, I answered an ad in the paper on Long Island. It's got to be 1979, 1980. Original band needs a guitar player. So I answered, I auditioned, and they said, oh man, you're our new guitar player. I'm like, what happened to your old guitar player? They said, hey, he went to college up in Boston. I'm like, okay. A couple months later, this guitar player came back to visit, and it turns out it's Steve Vai.
No way.
Dude, you can't make this up. And, he just left Berkeley. I think he just started working for Frank Zappa, transcribing Frank's music. I don't even know if he was playing guitar for Frank yet. He looked at me and goes, man, you sound awesome. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, you're killer. I heard your demos. I'm like, I got to do this. This is insane. Became friends. He was the one who opened the entire door to the world, the music world for me. And to this day, we correspond all the time. I mean, we grew up one town away from each other and one of the most important meetings of my life because he was just the coolest kid ever back then, another Italian from Long Island. And if you go down that rabbit hole deeper, Joe Satriani was the same for Steve Vai. Why wouldn't we just be cool all the time to people? I never understood that church and state division between people in the audience and people on stage. I was in the audience for the front half of my life dreaming about being on that stage.
What about Leslie West? I'm such a fan of his enthusiasm for music, for life, his humor, this massive guy with this tiny little Les Paul Jr., then the sounds that would come out of it. So what was that like running into him?
It was fantastic. The first couple meetings, I'd go see him play in wherever he was playing. Huge Mountain fan growing up. I mean, the opening riff to Mississippi Queen is like the soundtrack of my teenage years in the 70s, But I remember the most important time we ever spent time together I happened to be in some recording studio upstate New York, and he happened to have a session like not too long after me. And I'm sitting in the chair, and I'm recording some guitar solo, and he looks up to me, and he goes, "Hey, kid, the secret is if you get a good note, hang on to it." And I looked up at him and was like, that's like the best advice anybody ever gave me.
So kind of playing the right notes and not necessarily just shredding. Is that what he's referring to?
That's what he's talking to. He goes, if that note sounds really good against the chord in the song, hang on to it for a couple extra seconds. Don't worry about showing off all the time. You serve the song. You play for what the song tells you to play. I kind of looked at it, like, dude, you're Leslie West, and that was like the greatest guitar lesson of my life. The other great guitar lesson was Steve Vai told me, make sure you can sight read better than anybody else. So my entire teenage into my early 20s years was kind of like looking at these men saying, well, I want to be like them one day. So if they're doing that and they're telling me to do that, I'm going to do exactly what they tell me.
What about Ozzy or Sabbath? Right now, anybody I talk to, I got to ask them their memories, their interactions, any interactions with the Prince of Darkness?
Only one years and years ago when Jake left the band, and I don't even know what year this would be, 87 maybe, right? 88. And Max Norman was Ozzy's producer, I think, on the two Blizzard of Oz and the Diary album. And I had known Max in New York City, and he called me up and he goes, I'm recommending you to Sharon to be one of the people that they look at to replace Jake. And I was like, oh, my God, fantastic. Coincidentally, I ran into Sharon and Ozzy somewhere in New York City, I think. I said, I don't mean to interrupt you guys. And I introduced myself to Sharon. I said, listen, Max Norman, my name's Al Pitrelli. Max Norman put my name into a hat for potential people that were going to audition for you guys. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. But whatever happens, good luck to you. Love you guys. Respect always. And Ozzy, nodded and smiled. And Sharon shook my hand very graciously and said thank you. And that was the first and last time I ever spoke to him, because a very famous photographer named Mark Weiss recommended Zach. And I think when Zach walked in the room, it was all over. And Zach was the perfect choice for Ozzy back then. I was definitely not in. If you put me or Zach in there, put Zach in there for what Ozzy needed at the time.
But that's got to be non-replaceable, that moment where you're like, I could end up as Ozzy's guitarist. I'm on the list. That's almost enough. Sure, it's going to get better at that if you get the gig, but just to know that you're in the possibility has got to be overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, it was nice because that's an accomplishment. People are looking at you at that level. I certainly didn't see myself at that level yet. You talk about Randy Rhoads and Jakey Lee, and then subsequently, Zach Wilde. But all of a sudden, it's like, well, people are paying attention to me. I should probably, keep working really, really hard. And then not too long after that is when Steve Vai turned around and recommended me to replace him in David Lee Roth's band. Dave's like, you're my guy. But he got caught up in some film that he was doing, and then Steve reiterated that thought to Alice Cooper when Alice needed a musical director, and Alice hired me. And it's been a nonstop kind of just like pay it back situation. Everybody takes care of each other when you're out there, if you come from the old neighborhood. And I remember, like, Sharon was so sweet, a genuine smile. Ozzy was a gentleman, only the way Ozzy could be. And everybody was just kind and considerate. Here I am, not starving, but some young kid from Long Island dying to get in the business. And they were sweet for 5 or 10 minutes.
Now, with your work with Alice Cooper, with Asia, with Sabotage, with Megadeth, eventually you got to end up in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, right, Al? Megadeth was nominated 2024. They didn't go in, but they will. Do you think one of those bands will be inducted soon and you'll be included? And second follow-up question, do you think TSO could be inducted? That would be one of a kind, but surely influential in the world of rock.
I would love that TSO get that nod at some point. The other bands, I wasn't an original member of a lot of those bands, so I think that, whoever put, like, if Megadeth did it, I'd love to see Dave, put, like, the core band, with David Ellison and Marty Friedman. If they were inducted and I got an honorable mention, well, that'd be fantastic. I spent a couple years with them, and it was a wonderful time. But TSO was something that I was there when this thing was born. If this is Paul O'Neill's baby, then I'm just a weird uncle.
Yeah.
For 31 years, a little less than half my life now. I'll be 63 next week. But for 31 years, since I recorded those opening notes to Christmas Eve, Sarajevo, 1224. Yeah, if this went for that, I would be so grateful, and that would be probably one of the biggest rewards ever, to be acknowledged by your peers as doing something really important and really good. I would love that.
I think it's definitely a possibility, at least, to get nominated. I think. It's tough to say what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame will do. There's pros and cons for it. Obviously, it's not the end-all, say-all of what's important in rock. I would also argue, in the case of TSO, the influential status that you've had, because haven't you had all kinds of different cameos and guest players join you guys. Who are some of the people that have joined you? That alone should stand for something.
Oh, gosh. I mean, over the years, Steven Tyler, Joe Walsh, Tommy Shaw, Paul Rogers, Joan Jett, Buck Dharma from Blue Oyster Cult, Greg Lake. I have a poster signed by John Anderson, when he had to write out the lyrics to Roundabout when he played that with us. And then talk about a go pinch yourself kind of moment. I mean, here I am standing on stage next to Joe Walsh playing Rocky Mountain Way, and then 10 minutes later he's playing, one of my songs, and he's like, "What's the matter?" I'm like, "You have no idea. Like 50 years ago, I learned how to play like Walk Away and Funk 49, and here you are, And Tommy Shaw, a gentleman. I mean, I grew up listening to Styx and the Grand Illusion, Oh, Greg Lake from ELP, Brain Salad Surgery. I mean, those are the moments where you're sitting there going like, yeah, this is kind of cool. But it goes back when I was playing Alice Cooper's MD, standing next to Alice playing Welcome to My Nightmare School's Out with Alice Cooper in the band. It's not a cover band. And looking in the audience and Jimmy Page is sitting there. Yeah, that's when you got to go, okay, breathe through this one because,
Weren't you on an Alice Cooper live album? Were you an official member of the band at that point or just like,
yes.
hey, come help me out?
No. I mean, I was a hired sideman, but I was his MD and we did the Trash is the World film, literally live, I think from Birmingham, the NEC in Birmingham in like 1989. And that was like the third gig of the tour. Like I went from playing bars on Long Island to like Wembley and then the NEC and we filmed it. I was like, this is a good week.
Now, it's the 2025 Trans-Siberian Orchestra Winter Tour. You've got the Ghosts of Christmas Eve, the Best of TSO, and more. You're doing 2 shows a night. How busy is this schedule in the world of TSO? Is this the normal run? Because it looks like a lot of shows, but this is your job, this is your love, this is what you do. So tell me a little bit about the tour this year.
Well, like you said, 2 shows a day. It's a pretty busy day, but we got it down to a science. I mean, we've been doing it for 25 years of touring. Well, this will be the 26th year of touring, excuse me. When you think about the first tour in 99 was 7 cities and 10 shows in 1 box truck, and it's grown up like one of your children grow up over 26 years, okay? So we know how to do it. I got the best crew in the world, the best department heads. We rehearse 3.5 weeks of production rehearsals, and I'll probably run the show, 45, 50 times. And the truck drivers are choreographing how they back into the arena. There's a specific way that they got to do that in whatever order they have to do it. Same with the buses. It's a very well-oiled machine. And most of the guys on the crew, they've been with me for 20-something years. Now, as far as the show goes this year, it's my obsession that by the second week of January, I'm scratching my head saying, how do we make it better, brothers and sisters? We have to make it better. We have to make it bigger. Because the folks in the audience that come back year after year, they're called the repeat offenders. They deserve that, as does Paul O'Neill's legacy. Now, they want the familiar portion of the show, which we're going to give them. This year is going to be the Ghost of Christmas Eve. They've made that part of their holiday tradition, man. It's such a great compliment and a huge responsibility. But I can't repeat myself. Everything about this show will look different. The songs that we've never played before, the production will be bigger. There'll be more pyro, more. Hey, listen, I think we had this conversation last time. And I hope I didn't let you down last year by saying it's a bigger show than the previous year.
It's cool to see you embrace new technology, and then I get to see it live on stage 50 feet away. More of a 3D overlay. I'm like, oh, this show's changing with technology. I can tell the lights are smaller but brighter. The pyro is more controlled. It's just very impressive.
No, it is. And listen, I got the best department heads and crew chiefs ever because they love this thing as much as I do, and most of them have been with me from the jump. We all worked for O'Neill for, I've known Paul since 85, started working for him in 95. Same with most of especially our lighting designer, Brian Hartley. So the better technology gets, the more crazy ideas that Brian can come up with. The more he comes up with, the more I want to rewrite underscoring to accommodate what he's lighting, so it feeds itself. And it's so fun. It's so creative. It's so artistic. And we just want to do better work every year.
Now, are you involved in hiring all the players? Because a couple of these people, these men and women, I've seen year after year. They become part of the show. They're very recognizable. But you have such a huge cast of performers and players. Are you involved in picking these people out, or is that handed off to someone else?
No. Well, first of all, I haven't changed anybody in the band in decades. It's very sad, but we lost our keyboard player, Vitaly, a couple of years ago. And we had to make a move on that one. And I was involved in the decision on who's going to replace Vitaly, rest his soul. I think we replaced our drummer, 15 years ago. But other than those 2 changes, I've had the same band since 2001. Only because there's a chemistry to a rock and roll band. These people know exactly what I expect of them, so they know everything stone cold before we get to production rehearsals. The singers got it down to, I mean, every so often we'll add a new singer. You know, somebody takes off to pursue something else. Fantastic. Good for you. Good luck. But I'd say like I'm running 95% the same people for a long, long time.
Well, I'd asked that question because before I'd ran into you backstage last year, I was chatting with my kids with two females. I think it was two singers, but they did such a good job in talking to my daughter because, you know, rock stars are always men. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is mostly men. And so then here's this young girl that sees these two women. I go, yeah, they're in the band. And she was blown away. So I wanted to give kudos to them through you, saying those two ladies backstage, you know, they were just sitting down having a chat, and then we come strolling through, and they were just so polite. It meant the world to a little girl to see two female rock stars dressed in black. There's road cases and guitars everywhere. It was really cool.
But that, again, brother, that's how it should be. My 14-year-old daughter, and for the life of me, I'm not going to remember this artist's name. She just went to see her at Madison Square Garden a week or two ago, and my wife took her, and I stayed home with my younger daughter. Olivia and my wife had really good seats on the floor, kind of, you know, on the end of a row. Sold out show at Madison Square Garden, and the performer, this young lady, comes running through the crowd, stops dead in the tracks, looks at my daughter, Olivia, shakes her head, says, "Oh, I love you, and thanks for being here," and runs off. My wife got it on video, and when I see you, remind me, and I'll show you the video, the look on my daughter's face when she turned around, absolutely shocked, stunned, bawling, crying, the happiest moment. And I like seeing when people do things like that. Why would you, man? These people came, you know, they're coming to your show, they're celebrating your work, you know. I mean, I've been snubbed by a bunch of people over the years, all of which will remain nameless, but I don't understand. I think this is who you are as a human, never mind as an entertainer.
Well, it's Al Pitrelli, Ghosts of Christmas Eve, the best of TSO and more. Brand new show, the biggest and best TSO tour to date. Al, once again, man, it's great to talk to you. I'm glad you're doing well, and tell your family we said hello.
Much love and respect, my brother, and I'll see you soon. And I can't wait to see you kids again. We're going to have fun this year.